Hello there, welcome to Fully Painted. Last time around I showed you how I kit bashed some custom Saurus hero, and today as promised I'm gonna show you how I painted it. Now grab your brushes, we're going to the lab. So I start my Saurus hero like I start all of my Seraphons at the moment. So I start with the blue skin, followed by a white zenithal to paint the white skin, basically. And now I start putting some contrast paints over all the scales and the different bits I want to paint to set in some colors. So I have jade scales as well as vibrant green scales. The idea is to replicate what I did for my chameleon skinks, with first initial coat of contrast followed by some very rough highlighting or sketching, I guess, value sketching with some off-whites here that I did before applying more contrast paints to the figure. Basically using that off-white overbrushing as a pre-shade. I did it with the purple scales if you've seen the chameleon skink video, and I wanted to replicate it here. And then I paint my spine in black, which I do for all my Seraphons. I wasn't satisfied with the look of the scale, so I redid another coat of contrast over it to darken it basically. I felt there wasn't enough contrast, light or value contrast. And now I redo my pre-shade, my pre-highlight shade, I don't know, with a rough dry brush, followed by some overbrush on the higher parts of the mini, like the shoulders, and basically every surface that's perpendicular to the light, basically. I'm quite rough with it because I want to add texture as well to the miniature. And then I redo the previous step, which is putting on some contrast paint again. I'm a bit more satisfied with the current look here as is. This is just simple base coating-ish kind of job. Here I sort of try to boost the shadows. And then I start highlighting all my scales, or mainly the ones that are facing the lights, so on the shoulders and the head. I do this by mixing some off-white to my initial contrast paints. This gives me a very liquidy mix, which I sort of let dry a bit to have it be more manageable and usable, so I can paint more precisely. And I do a lot of edge highlighting, of course, except on scales that are fully hit by light, where it's not just edge highlighting. And I push the highlight quite high because I want a shiny scale look to the miniature. I take my time with it because this is a hero, of course, but for my Saurus warriors I'm probably gonna just spend time on the faces and the shoulders. Then I start highlighting the back spine with my usual recipe of black Templar, then mechanical standard grey for the first highlight, and then I will add some off-white to the mix. I try to have one side of the spine be lit and one in shadow, because I feel like it adds dynamism to the composition. It makes everything looks better, I feel. Is the off-white highlight I mentioned. And now I do something I do with a lot of my Seraphon miniature. I try to replicate what we do for humans, where we add red to certain spots, and so I add blue to elbows, feet, hands, knees and whatnot, to give the illusion of blood. But here I guess it's blue blood. And now I'm highlighting the white skin Now that I have more color on the mini, it's easier for me to know how far I should push the highlight and the contrast on the white skin. I mostly do it on the arm here because that's the main white skin part that's hit by light. I just follow the volumes. And now for an interesting bit of the miniature, the weapon. I just stole that my recipe from technique rather, from what Squidmar did on a freehand video. Just have a dark layer, and then I do a lot of small patterns and fun patterns on the weapon with a white or off-white color for doing glazes of the same initial color. And I do multiple times. I redo the patterns, I vary them to add some depth, and then just another glaze, then another pattern layer, then another glaze layer, etc, etc. It adds a lot of depth of color and gives me this very interesting celestial marble effect-ish. I don't know how to name it. I did a jade gem as well here, but it's not as interesting as the weapon. I really enjoyed this process of various layers followed by glazes. It's really fun. I recommend you do it. But yeah, that's the hero done. Let's move on to the base. For the base, I wanted to push that Craftworld Studio inspiration that I did on the Chameleon skink a bit further. So I sprayed a lot of inks, various inks like yellows, browns and reds and greens onto a zenithal pre-shade. And the idea here is then to do some layering, but to be very rough with it, and to try and let that initial colored layer through, so it gives a bit of atmosphere and ambience to the piece. So I do a lot of very rough layering and texturing onto the stone first, and the earth a bit as well. But yeah, I try to let the greens and the various colors through. Whack the brush on the stone. I add even more colors to the stone here. You see some reddish brown, and there's gonna be some green as well. The main idea of this piece is really to have a lot of different colors going on through the base, because I feel it's gonna make it look more realistic and more interesting. Even more colors. I'm very rough with it, as you can see. There's a lot of stippling to add texture as well as colors. It's a very relaxing process, as you can guess. It's quick and dirty. And now I start highlighting. I use the same recipe for a lot of my whitish stones on the Seraphon army. I really like the contrast between the Vallejo khaki and the Vallejo earth. And so I try to place my layers on top facing surfaces and spots that are going to be hit by light. As you can see on this arch here, I mostly hit the top surfaces that are completely facing the light. Do some edge highlight as well, and I'm really rough with it, as you can see, and I'm using a very damaged brush. It doesn't have a tip anymore. Now I'm a bit more precise for the final highlights, with which is an off-white here. Yeah, as you can see from the previous layers, there's a lot of stippling going on, which gives a lot of texture to the stone. I hit the sides, the pattern as well, because I'm gonna hit them with contrast paints, so it sort of acts as a pre-shade. Then for the leaves, I redo what I did on my Stegodon bases, and that is stealing Emil's painting of those leaves he did for a goblin base, basically. With the reddish brown in the center, I think it looks fantastic. And then I do my first highlights on all the plants and the leaves. It's basically adding some off-white to all my green colors. I try to have various green colors going on. This more yellowish green with the goblin green, and then some more minty ones. And I try to go for a very high contrast of value here to make it look like the base is hit with a very strong light. And once again, you may have noticed I just put paint on the highlight layers and don't redo the base coating on the midtones, which means that my initial layers of mood setting are still showing through, which I think looks really good. Obviously, I try to make sure that all my light placements are coherent, and for that I keep tilting the base to angle it as if my eyes were the light source, so I can see where the light is going and how it should hit all the parts. Yeah, I'm going for a very shiny satin look on all the plants, so I push the value quite high, as I mentioned initially. I think it looks fantastic. Very wow. Yeah, I'm currently very pleased with the look of this base. It looks very, very green, very wild, very nature. Makes me want to go outside. I do the small runes thingies with just contrast paints. It's very simple application, this. I think I just do one lining, yeah, here, just one lining. And that's about it. And then it's on to the bones. Once again, I tried to leave the shadows untouched with that first vibe setting I did initially. And so I'm just going for midtones and highlight here for the colors. I'm trying to be fairly rough and let the direction of the brush dictate texture. But yeah, keep highlighting, pushing the value high, and concentrating the highest highlights closer to the base of the horns. Not only because they are facing the light, but also it directs the viewer's eye towards the arch. Then I did that glazing of dark brown towards the tip of the horns. And that's it. Now onto the metals. For the metals, I'm gonna follow very simple recipes, very close to what I did for my stegodons. I hit the more steel parts with a very simple recipe of a very dark steel. And then for all the bronze, I do a simple first base coat of my Green Soft World metal pigments with a bit of sepia ink to tint it a bit, because I want it to look like fairly old metal, because I picture this guy as being a very old dude. He's been around for ages. And now it's on to washes. I do a very simple dark wash on the steels. And for the bronze, this is where things are different. I'm not using Gorgontra fur like I did on the stegodons. Here I wanted to have an older look to my bronze, so I used some wildwood with some green. And then I boost, after that initial wash I boost the shadows on the metals following some NMM principles, as you can see. And I'm doing it right now on the dude. And it's just glazes to boost the shadows and the contrast. And after that, I go back to my original bronze, without the sepia ink, I should add. This is pure bronze right now. And I apply the layer on the faces that are catching the most light. And again, I'm trying to follow that sort of NMM logic to my placement. Doing a lot of edge highlighting, because metals do catch a lot of light on their edges. But yeah, that's the logic I'm trying to follow. Beyond that, it's very much doing what I did for my Stegadon. Take my time with it. I'm probably not gonna do this for my Saurus warriors, because they're not heroes and there's 20 of them to paint. But here I can take my time. As you can see, I'm going for a very high contrast, where there's some bits in shadows and bits in on light on that very face of the arm right here. Going for high contrast. For the steel elements, it's very simple. Just do one highlight as well with the silver. And then I'm going for a small OSL as a final effect, doing some glazes of blue before putting some white at the center of those runes. And that's it for my miniature. Here it is in all its glory. I'm really pleased with the paint job, especially the base. I think this is one of my best bases. It looks very lively, and I love how the atmosphere I tried to set up first show through. I think it looks very lively and real, and I really definitely want to try that out on the rest of the army as I paint it. I'm quite pleased with the scales as well I did on the guy. There's probably some tweaks to be done for when I paint the rest of the army, but it's a good first start. It's not as striking as the chameleon, but it looks pretty good. Yeah, very pleased with this. This guy is now ready to claim some butts. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope you found it useful. If you did, please give it a like. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them down below in the comments. And if you want to see more tutorials like this one, please consider subscribing. But that's it from me, and I'll be seeing you in the next video. So until then, I hope you stay adventurous and that you keep painting, because painting is cool.